from death, I don't think.
Even just the mortality rate for birth. Like
that too.
Moms and babies both. You know, that was a huge thing that modern medicine has not eliminated, but nearly.
Yeah, so I think anyway, so the point I was getting to was that I was thinking about asana with a little bit more depth, because it obviously is this moving meditative practice, but then also making the body capable of being alive in a broader way. Because like when I'm practicing yoga, it makes everything I do better. I'm running better, I'm roofing better, I'm doing everything. My body can move properly and heal properly. And so this other deep idea came into it when I was thinking about it, that to not treat it with that kind of respect would be like a sinful thing in a way, because how you physically manifest in the world deserves respect. And also it kind of houses your consciousness in some way, like to the degree that the brain is producing or receiving it or whatever the case may be. You know, having a body that's suited for survival is like giving ultimate respect to your consciousness in a way, because, you know, it's having the proper posture and the proper physical manifestation is like, it's the proper way to house something as profound as your own spirit.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting point. I practiced with a teacher recently who said, you know, that you essentially, once you accomplish so many of the first few limbs, that chain of the 8 limbs is turned on its side and you practice all 8 simultaneously. But, you know, and I think about this a lot because there's a lot of criticism in the yoga world right now about, you know, what's happening in the Western world with yoga and what we're doing to it and all this stuff. But the truth of the matter is, like, I love what you said there, because, you know, yes, asana is prevalent, but if it is what leads us or prepares us for everything else, then why isn't it okay that it's the first thing? Because I see it all the time. People show up in yoga to get fit, to get a workout. They're accomplishing things. I can see it. We're getting somewhere. Like, you know, I'm getting a down dog. I'm getting here. I'm getting to this pose. I'm getting this. But at some point, if you show up enough times, no matter what your mindset is, something will shift and change. You know, the practice is energetically designed that way. If it's offered, you know, by a skilled teacher, then things will shift and change, right? And so if the world we're in is more, you know, makes more sense for asana to be the first thing, then if we get to the other limbs because of it, then what's the problem?
Yeah. We're
talking about a practice that grew up in a very different world and society. We're thousands of years in a far different place from then. And you know, if we're not willing to allow the practice to evolve and shift to some degree, then we're maybe just asking for it to die out, because this is the world we're in. You know, and it might be different in India now, or it might be different there now, or whatever. But the truth of the matter is, it is accessible physically first for people. And then if they get led to the rest of it because of that, great. And if they just get more in tune and in touch with their body and that's all they get, great. That's still wonderful. A lot of us are disembodied. We're not connected. We don't... Like, I think of how amazing it is. Like, sometimes you feel things, you get shivers, and we get all these things in our bodies. We dismiss a lot of that stuff, unless it is intense. You know, but you think about... I remember reading this book. Is it by Kafka? I can't remember. It's a short story, and it's about a guy who's waiting overnight. He's going to the firing squad the next day. And the story describes his experience of that sleepless night and that feeling and dread and torment. And I remember feeling it and being so uncomfortable, this visceral description of him waiting to die the next day and me really considering how I would feel and being amazed that his feeling could not just evoke it in me, but that I understood it, that I could like feel it. Yeah. And I was like, we don't feel things enough anymore. We've limited things down to these major feelings, but all these feelings that arrive in our bodies in these ways that are beyond word, you know, like when when you get goosebumps, and these like funny feelings that don't have words for them, and you know, being in a room in practice and permitting yourself to let go of a story and just to feel, it's powerful. You know.
Yeah, it's like getting down to our primordial roots, because we were embodied acting in the world first, and we've conceptualized and talked about it after the fact. And so getting embodied properly, and then that's part of the alignment that yoga talks about, I think, where it's like your speech, your mind, your spirit, your body, you get all that on the same axis, and then maybe you're going to be able to live effectively. Yes. And but yeah, I don't think it kind of makes sense to me intuitively, and it seems to be the way it's proliferating throughout the West, that the sauna comes first. It's like, get into your body first.
Yeah. You know, and like, you're in a pose, or this is happening. I don't need, like, I'm the teacher. I don't need a word. Mm-hmm. You don't need a word. Just feel it. Yeah. Be willing. Whatever it is. Experience it. Mm-hmm. Nothing else. No mind, no story, no justification, no reason, no none of it. Just feel. It's amazing. Yeah. And when you're in a room and that happens, everybody starts to just tune in to that willingness to let go and feel whatever it is. For you, it might be elation. For me, it's torture. For you, it's something else. But there is like a willingness to just feel and be. Mm-hmm. It is it's transformative. It's powerful. I've been in those rooms. Mm-hmm. I've practiced in them. I've been fortunate enough to teach in them sometimes. And it's like, we all walk out and we're like, what was that? Yeah. It was great. We don't know. We have no words. We're all a little different. Mm-hmm. So cool.
One thing that I found amazing too is especially when we're it's one of the things I love about your classes is how you just get us in Warrior One for a long time, and your quad just lights up, and sways in your eyeballs. You can't see, it's stinging and everything like that, and it's like, then in life outside of class, when things get difficult, you're able to manage it better because you've willingly exposed yourself to discomfort, so that when it manifests, and it's gonna, because life isn't just this baseline flatline thing like we talked about, then you're going to be able to handle it better. And if you've just been coddled and in a bubble and overprotected your whole life, either because, I don't know, your parents or you or something, and then when life manifests itself in a difficult situation, which it's going to, you're going to be way less capable of navigating through it. And then also when you get to the end of a class that it's crazy hard and you don't think you're going to get there, you learn something about yourself. You're way more capable than you thought. You're way tougher than you thought. And I think people so for example, I did my first, it's not that huge of an accomplishment, but the first time I managed to sit in an ice bath for 10 full minutes.
I would say that's a huge accomplishment.
And so the thing that was amazing is this is kind of a problem I see with people following inspirational Instagram pages or something, and just wanting to get all the answers from a self-help book or something, even though I love reading and I love those pages and all that stuff. But so long as it's just an idea you got from someone else's mouth or words, it's just this abstract concept in your head. Yeah. And it's not until you actually subject yourself to the experience and get through it that you actually know that about yourself and in your body. So for example, I'm very familiar with the Iceman Wim Hof and other people who have taken taken after him and exposing themselves to the cold and conditioning themselves in that way. And I'm fully aware that the human body can do it. And with the right training, you can swim amongst the icebergs and not die of hypothermia if you do it right. And it wasn't until I got through that ice bath, though, that it really was in my body, at least in that small little setting. And after the fact, I could not wipe the smile off my face. I felt so flooded with endorphins and joy and just that sense of there's something that is currently beyond you or beyond what you've experienced thus far in life. You're going to try to do it, but you don't know if you're going to be able to or not. In the midst of it, your brain is just like, holy crap, this is cold. I can't do this. Or it's been 10 seconds since I checked the clock last or whatever. And then you go through that whole thing, and then you're finally on the other end of it, and it's over, and you did it, and it's just like, holy crap, I did it. Yeah. And people talk about having self-respect and stuff. I don't think you can have self-respect unless you have reason to, because you don't believe that about yourself unless you have seen yourself prevail over something difficult, and then you respect yourself.
And there is something about the willingness. It's not just the accomplishment. When you're in a class and you're in a pose, part of it is knowing I can't, as the teacher, I can't actually make you stay here. I can't even tell you if you're supposed to stay. Because sometimes you're not. Sometimes it's compassion, kindness, do something, less. Some of us, that's our work. Some people, it's like, stay, endure, suffer, get through it. And the truth of the matter is, you didn't have to stay in the bath.
Yeah.
The accomplishment isn't necessarily the 10 minutes. The accomplishment is the willingness that you actually, by choice, over and over again, probably.
Yeah, every second that goes by, yeah.
To be willing. Like, that's the amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes us better. It's the willingness to actually endure when we don't have to. It's because we're constantly, as humans, put in situations where we have to endure. It's the ones that we show up for. Mm-hmm. It's the choice to be stronger or better or to stay another second or to fight a little more. Like, that's the stuff that amazes me.
Yeah, I think that's what we admire about the human spirit most of the time. It's like the heroes in our stories are the ones that endure and are willing to take that burden and not become embittered by it and all those things. It's like, I think you touched on a huge point there. It's like, because we could all just blow our brains out, right? That option's there. We know that we could die, or some people don't want to think about any of that stuff ever, but I think way more people think about that stuff than perhaps most people would have admitted decades ago. But it's like, you don't gotta do any of these things. The option's there, especially in today's culture. Like, you could just spend your life on your couch in your mom's basement with ice cream and chips and beer and everything, and some people's mothers will let them do that. And the option to do that's there. And then, but part of like salvation is from the willingness to go out there. I think that's part of what faith and love really are, is like going on the assumption that it's good, the assumption that life is good, the assumption that it would be good for you to get involved and to live it, and then to bear the burden that comes along with that. And the willingness to do that, that's huge. If you don't have that, then that's like fuel, and that's like the faith that because it's a leap of faith to go and suffer like that.
It
to
is.
know that you're going to be a better person on the other end of it. And I think a lot of things that I've heard you say, I think, and some other teachers too, talk about just showing up and being there. Like, the hardest thing is getting to the yoga studio.
Yeah.
And once you're there, you're just along for the ride. The teacher's going to guide you through it.
Yeah.
And you listen to your body. You're there. But the hardest thing is just showing up and being willing and getting. Up until that point, there's every reason in the world not to do it. Like, I don't want to walk to class, or I don't want to take the bus, or I just worked a long day, or whatever.
Yeah.
I do it all the time,
And it's amazing to me, like, when you do show up, this is the other thing I love about it, is recognizing what you happen to need in the moment is different than what anybody else happens to need next to you or around you. And what you happen to need this moment is different than the next. And so, like, when you start to have classes of people who start to connect with that stuff, you see people take a break, take rest. You see people stay when they're shaking because they have something to learn in the moment. Or maybe they aren't learning anything and they haven't got it yet. Or, like, whatever. It's not actually none of my business.
Yeah.
What people are learning and getting. That's not actually part of my job. I love people and I love being curious about it, but it's really not for me to know. But, that's part of it too. Mm-hmm. That it's beautiful when I see a class and some people stop and some people deepen and some people just stay and some people find stillness and some people move and shift and explore. And I'm just like, this is the point of it all.
Yeah.
The truth of the moment, which is just purely unique for each of us, moment after moment. I find so much joy in when I think I'm seeing it. I guess I'll never truly know if that's what I'm seeing, but when I perceive that I am, I'm like, this is beautiful, because this is a tiny version of the whole world. Mm-hmm. Each of us in every moment just being human, which is different than every other human in every other moment. And that's what I think that's why it's called the practice. We're just practicing in this space what it means to be out in the world. Like you said, that moment in Warrior 1 where later when it's hard, it's like, no, I have enough.
Yeah.
Right?
You can get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I've gained a new level of appreciation for human beings that I think I lost for a few years in my late teens. Probably naturally so. It's just, I thought we were contemptible species. I went through that phase.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we're like a cancer